a reporter and presenter with the BBC, Al Jazeera, and CNN.
Thank you very much, Violetta. Remy, do you want to do a brief intro of yourself, please, my friend?
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, and I want to thank everyone, for joining us on the this event this afternoon. This is the final of the Meek Africa Startups Challenge. I'm happy to see Chris Foltz. Chris, good afternoon, sir.
Honored to be here with you, my friend.
Yeah, finally, I'm lucky to see you. Very good. So it's a pleasure. My name is Remy Chukwunyo. Like I said, I am the Executive Director of the Goomba Center for Leadership Development in Africa. And by the grace of God, we are driving, enterprise, the enterprise ecosystem in Africa. And so glad that most of the top finalists are from Goomba Leadership Center. It's really interesting to see that our work is, making impacts across the continent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Remy. And Fong, if you just want to introduce yourself quickly for us, that'd be great. I've made you a presenter, so you can unmute yourself now.
Okay. Wait, sorry. Let me quit my WhatsApp application. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Fong.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Fong. I'm leading Dripper Startup House initiatives in Africa, and we are building a network of startup houses across Africa, meaning to create a system where we can fund African entrepreneurs to move around, stay at our different locations in Africa to discover how to scale their startups regionally. And we use Dripper resources such as Dripper University and Meet the Dripper TV show and Dripper Network in order to support entrepreneurs on the continent. And I'm happy to be here today, and looking forward to knowing you all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Fong, and thank you for joining us and supporting us with this magical journey and offering up the Star Prize as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't believe the president of the Iguamba Society is here yet, Remy. Can you confirm that for me? In which case, we will kick straight into our first guest speaker, which is Chris. Is he here, Remy, or not?
No. As soon as he comes, I will let you know. Just go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, which means we'll skip straight through and on to Chris Foltz. So the man in question here needs no introduction from myself. He's renowned all over the world for his advice, his disruptive innovation, for his mentorship abilities, all the way from the US where it's early hours of the morning. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris. It'd be great if you could just give us a little bit of a background on who you are, where you're from, and what you've been doing.
Certainly. I'm so honored to be here tonight, Ricky, with everyone. With this focus on me, I got to applaud the team that has put this all together and the people that are here tonight. My name is Chris Foltz. I'm the entrepreneur in residence at Founder Institute in Silicon Valley. Is one of the, I would say, the home bases for where I make the most impact globally. I'm one of the global mentors. I'm involved in probably 20 different countries in the FI ecosystem. And by day, with my business partner, Russell Brand, not the actor, but the Silicon Valley nerd, which is trust me, more amazing. My business partner and I, we run responsible.com. We are a global advisory firm, and we focus on, like Ricky said, disruptive ideas, disruptive innovation. And, I thought a lot about what I wanted to talk with you. I know it's not the longest bit of time, but I wanted to think about what is something that I wish I knew that I didn't know, throughout my life. And I've recently come across putting this all together, so I wanted to share it with you tonight. It's the first time I've ever talked about it. I even put a couple notes together, which is usually not how I operate. But, I wanted to share with you something. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I want to give you all permission to be different. I've fought this my entire life, being different, what it actually means. And, I think a lot of you are like, Chris, we've already got something different. Don't worry, we've got this covered, right? But you see, there's a difference between what you were thinking and being authentically different. When I said I fought being different my entire life, when I was young, I'll say diagnosed me as a child prodigy, and why I said it that way is because it felt more like a hindrance than it ever felt like a value in my life. You know, I just wanted to be the same. I wanted to have friends, and that was not the quickest way to get them. But at the same time, they diagnosed me early on with ADD. Like before it was even hyperactivity disorder, they said I had a written expressive disorder. They told my mom that it would probably best that I avoid large groups because I wouldn't be able to emotionally handle the rigors that come with doing things like perhaps being an entrepreneur. And so they said, shield him from this. So my mom, she thought differently, and she put me in all the rooms. She understood that I wanted to be the same, but she put me in rooms where there were other people that were different as well, where I started learning the importance of perspective. And, you know, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was really young. That's what I thought was going to be my contributions to humanity, henceforth the NASA hat. But I realized that there were certain requirements. You know, I was always a chubby kid. So, you know, you have to fit a certain size to even fit into the astronaut suit. And so I knew that was out. So I figured, what is the profession that would really help people be the same? And I thought somehow at face value that politics would be this, you know, perhaps leading in government office, being the mayor of my hometown, helping people. Well, when I started doing politics at the age of 12, my mom got me involved in a campaign, and I moved up to getting involved with U.S. Congress by the time I was 16. By the time I was 18, my first U.S. presidential campaign I was part of. 19, George W. Bush's campaign. We've all heard of him. And ironically, what I forgot throughout that entire process was that, you know, I set out because I wanted to help people be the same. And in politics, really, it's somewhat exploiting the differences between people. And, you know, they wanted me to be somebody I wasn't and help make people look good. And it was problematic. And a whole sequence of events caused me to learn one of the first rules that there is to being authentically different. I'm going to tell you 3 rules today about being authentically different. And when you're authentically different, that's how your brands are going to change the world. Rule number 1, never forget where you came from. You see, what led me on a path to the rise in politics, I forgot why I started out in the first place. And through a series of events, I became a drug addict out of nowhere. There's actually a BBC a piece on this. My friend Yoletta did not put it together, but you can find it out there, how drugs, I think it was prescriptions to opiates, led to prison. It's very interesting, but I talk about all of this on the BBC. And because I forgot where I came from and where I set out, I found myself in my mom's basement as a drug addict. And here, it didn't matter who I knew, didn't matter what I did, I had failed. So rule number 1, never forget where you came from. So when I was in that situation, the only thing that stopped me from this addiction was my mother died. And when my mother died, I literally had to rethink life, but I didn't really even have the opportunity, because the day after she died, a judge put a $250,000 warrant out for my arrest for what would be petty crime that I committed during my drug addiction, and justified at that. He put a warrant out that was so large that he knew I wouldn't bail out because he knew I would die. This was the first campaign I ever worked on when I was 12 years old. So here I am in jail, starting my life over. I come over homeless, and I figured, hey, listen, I had all these skills in politics. It's about 15 years ago. How can I make politics help people in business and literally help people take their brands to what they say the next level, launch things that matter? But people that face obstacles, we all face obstacles, but how do I help those skills in people that are going to change the world with ideas and innovation? So I set out to create a communication strategy firm that was going to help these people do this. And my first few clients were that. I guess I was my first client for that matter. I had a lot of obstacles at this point. So in my rise in this business, I get more and more clients, pretty soon celebrities, pretty soon people that didn't have obstacles, that just had money though. And they wanted to pay me to make them look good. You know, people said, I like to say I was in communication strategy. People called it public relations. People called it marketing. People called it web development. I guess I had an identity crisis at the time, but no matter what we did, we were the fastest growing at it in the United States. We grew from having 0 clients. I took the last $140 in my name coming out of jail and grew it to the fastest growing communication strategy firm in America at that time. I had 400 clients, and what I realized was rule number 2, never lose sight of where you're going. You see, I set out to do this to help people eliminate obstacles, but yet, although I had all these high-paying celebrity clients, I found out that they oftentimes created more obstacles than they solved, right? I didn't realize that although I remembered where I came from, although I set out with the right intentions, I wasn't necessarily different. I ended up being the same, and my clients held me to that standard. There's some miraculous outcomes that came from that period of time. But at the end of the day, I learned the hard way. And my best friend, who I grew up with, who I got into drug addiction with, well, they found him dead of drug addiction. And when I found this out, it really affected me in a peculiar way, because you see, I tried to do everything to be different for him. I tried to give him opportunity. I tried to help him with every business I started, giving him a job, giving him a place to live, and it was nothing that could stop it. So how I reacted to it was very peculiar, some people would thought. I was a regular contributor to television in Chicago on network TV, and I knew I was going to be on TV that week. And in that episode of the show, I literally fired all my clients. And I wanted to, since I couldn't stop my friend from dying, I wanted to help people from starting. So I moved my office from this beautiful downtown full floor of an office building in Chicago to what they called the most dangerous neighborhood at the time in Chicago, North Lawndale, the very place that my friend and I would come get drugs when we couldn't get it. So when we moved our firm over there, I thought I was going to now change the world. I'm going to set out and never lose sight of where I'm going and why I started out, never forget where I came from, which led me on the path to where I'm at today. And rule number 3, you see, we all spend so much time celebrating what makes us different, right? That was how I started this out, giving you permission to be different, for your brands to be different, for you to be different. But you see, rule number 3 is never take for granted what makes us all the same. You see, when I got involved with mentorship after a very interesting career working in startups and helping a lot of companies solve problems during COVID, I realized that it was a lot of the same obstacles that we face that held us back from being different. A lot of the same challenges that we face. I started off in San Francisco, a place in the Founder Institute world, which pretty much has everything, access to all the best technologies, access to everything. But the obstacles that the startups face were similar to when I accidentally got involved with my first mentorship in Abuja, Nigeria. And if it wasn't for accidentally getting involved with Abuja, Nigeria, I would never be the person I am today. It made me realize what obstacles were from a different perspective. And you can never forget where you came from. You can never lose sight of where you're going. But if you don't realize what makes people the same, you see, we're all human. It's not about celebrating what makes us different. Being authentically different is built upon understanding what makes us all the same. And so that's what I live by and function now. And I've been involved in 6 or 7 countries in Africa and realizing the innovation that's coming out, the things that are going to change the world. It has humbled me as an American, as a human, as a person that's been at the top of industry, as a person that was named one of the top marketing people in the world last year by the Institute for Real Growth. And it's not because I spent all my life just celebrating difference. I wanted to be the same. It's because I understood that authenticity is the new disruptive. So be authentic. It's not about me giving you permission to be different. It's letting you know that it's okay to be yourself. In being yourself and following those rules to be different, you give yourself permission to change the world. And I'll be the first person here to support you with that. Mentorship is the key. I didn't get my first mentor till I was 40 years old. I'm 40 years old right now. Let me put this in perspective for you. My mentor is my business partner. It couldn't be. I learn every day. The most common thing that Russell says to me is, Chris, do you know about this? And almost certainly the answer from me is going to be, no, I don't. Perhaps I've never even heard of it. But you see, be willing to learn. Never give up on that. Follow those 3 rules. Be different. Be yourself. I will help you change the world as long as you are authentic. You can get there. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I really appreciate you all.
It's amazing to hear, not just the gospel preach that we hear all the time, but something that is clearly from the heart and means a lot to you. So thank you for really sharing that perspective from, what it means for you. And those 3 rules, if everybody follows those around, never forget where you came from, never lose sight of where you're going, and never take for granted. If you follow those 3 principles, you'll go far, because all of those formulate exactly to your point, the authenticity that should be, you are the best version of you that I know. and everyone has that. Everyone is the best version of them that they could possibly be. So don't be anything else. Be authentic, and you will go far. So thank you very much, Chris, for giving us that talk through. And Chris will be with us, for some, maybe all, we don't know, but as much of this as he can. And possibly he might even join us in the networking session afterwards. But thank you very much, Chris, for joining us.
Thank you, Ricky, for having me. Thank you all.
Your
Thank you.
perspective around. And I wish you all the best of joy with the rest of your day, and please do stay with us as long as you can.
I'm going to stick around. I'm excited to hear from some of these amazing people.
They are incredible, my friend. They are brilliant.